Okay, so let's go through a couple of things before we talk about like why this passage is difficult. So let's number our paragraphs. 1, but is it 2, 3, 4? Okay, so 4 body paragraphs. All right. In that first paragraph, when we looked at circling, we worked our way backwards, so that's harder to find things for me. So looking from the top down, what are words that you circled in that first body paragraph that you didn't know? All the way down there? Let's go from the top down. Do what? Okay.
Ubiquitous.
Well, it's defined for us down below.
Implicitly.
Okay.
Pervasive.
There it is. What else?
Variegated.
Do we know what integrative means? Yes? JW does. Does anybody else?
Yeah.
Okay. What about explicitly?
Yes.
Okay. Some of us circled that. Yeah, some of us did in the last one too. All right. Yep. Oh my God. Okay. So look, in this, and then count how many sentences there are. How many sentences are there in just paragraph 1? Yep. Okay, and then what else in this body paragraph do you notice that may be a little different formatting wise than maybe something that you've seen? Is there any kind of formatting in there that you're looking at as you read through that you found? Anybody notice these things in quotes? That's formatting. That is not quoting somebody. So when we see quotations, we usually think that it's like quoting what somebody says, and this is not, right? So when I get into a passage, I quickly scan over to see, like, I'm looking at the dashes, I'm looking at like the quotes, and I'm noticing like, okay, that's something that's a little different. And then also if I'm looking at this and I'm seeing like this idea of this many words, I know I have to read a little bit slower so that I understand the passage, right? Now, this is a passage from one of our multiple choice tests that's released from recent years. So we tend to think that things that are pre-20th century are difficult to read. So when we see 2008, we're like, oh, this should be easy, right? But I think there's a couple of things in this. I think the tone is a little difficult for us to read, especially if we don't understand a large majority of the vocabulary from that section, right? Okay, so let's start. Whenever we have a reading passage, this in multiple choice, this is as important as the prompt, because this will give us background information to understand like how to read this text. So the following passage is excerpted from the preface of a book. Okay, a book. For this one, we're going to assume that it's nonfiction because the preface is different than a foreword. A foreword in a fictional book is about like why they wrote it, who they appreciate, how they got to where they are. But what is the purpose of the preface of a nonfiction book?
Background information.
A little bit. I mean, there's a little background, but if we think of everything we read is some form of an argument, a singular passage, a nonfiction book, a song, a commercial, what would the preface be for? Shows what? Okay, so it's going to intro like their position in the argument. And sometimes it will provide us like exigence, like why they are writing what they're writing. 2008, so it's recent, by a geography professor. Somebody, I'm going to need, there's only half of us in here. So I'm going to need y'all to have your phones out, and I'm going to give y'all some words to define here in a minute. So what is the definition of geography? It's the study of what? And what? And what else? So it is the study of physical features and human activity within the earth, right? So he is a professor, which means he is an expert in this field. When we think about a geography professor writing a book, what is he probably gonna write about? Geography, right? I mean, like, that's his background knowledge. That's what he knows. So it's probably what he's going to write about. So when we go into this knowing that the voice of this passage is somebody who is an expert in, like, the physical features. And, like, you go back to AP Human, right? Like, what are the things that I learned at AP Human? So that's the voice of the person that you're reading this from. All right. I need somebody to define explicitly. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of words. Somebody define explicitly. Somebody raise their hand. Okay, there's one. I need implicitly. 2. I need prominent. 3. I need pervasive. 4. I need variegated. 5. Mosaic. 6. Obsolete. 7. Deterministic. Jaden, you're deterministic. You're going to have to do what determinism is. And then proponent. Proponent. Got it. Okay. You're going to have to leave room to write brief definitions, but then also to annotate. All right, so I'm going to go in because we have the time. Now, if we have a multiple choice test, we obviously don't have the time to go in and define and do all the things, but now that we do, we will. So, explicitly, what's the definition?
In a clear and detailed manner.
We've defined that before with our rubric. Clear and defined. So if you are explicit about something, you can point to it, like in the text where it is, right? Implicit means what?
Not directly expressed.
That's implied. We have to figure it out. Our claims are implied, right? The claims that we write down are implied. Okay? Prominent? Pervasive? Variegated.
Exhibiting different colors, especially as irregular patches or streaks.
Wait, say that again.
Exhibiting different colors, especially as irregular patches or streaks.
What is a mosaic?
A picture or pattern produced by arranging together small colored pieces of hard materials such as stone, tile, or glass.
One more time.
pattern produced by arranging together small colored pieces of hard materials such as stone, tile, or glass.
So, in a lot of churches in Italy, because of the humidity, they don't have paintings because the paintings and the humidity like fade over time. So they created mosaics, which are like little pieces of tile and glass that are created to form like a larger picture, right? So when you step back, you see the picture. When you step in, you see the little pieces. So think of those like photographs of people that they're little bitty squares, right? And they're different pictures of that person. So far away, you see the person, but when you get close up, they're individual pictures. So mosaic is like pieced together. Obsolete.
No longer produced.
Deterministic.
The doctrine that all events, including human action, are ultimately determined by causes external to the will.
So basically, all events are caused by something external creating it. Proponent.
A person who advocates a theory, proposal, or project.
So one of your jobs tonight, after we get as far as we get, is to do this same thing. Go through the body paragraph, circle the words you don't know, define them, and then read them, okay? But this one I feel like does a pretty good job if you read it slowly enough to use a little bit of context clues, but you have to read slowly enough. Okay, so I'm reading this from the voice and perspective of an expert in the field of physical features and human actions, okay? So, numerous books and articles published in recent years argue, explicitly as well as implicitly, notice that these are between commas. So whatever is between commas, if it's an explanation and not just a list, it defines or further explains what comes previous, right? Numerous books and articles published in recent years argue explicitly as well as implicitly that the human world today is so mobile, so interconnected, and so integrative that it is, in one prominent and much repeated assessment, flat. What does he mean that the world today is so mobile?
Everybody, well, the human world, so everybody that is a person moves around a lot.
Why are we so mobile? Because what?
Because we can get in a car, get in a train, get in an airplane, get on a boat, and go pretty much anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
12 hours.
Now he says this world is so mobile compared to 100 years ago, right? So now we are so mobile. What does it mean that we are so interconnected? You know what connected means, right? Inter means together. So why are we so interconnected?
Technology, we can call anyone.
And technology allows us to call, speak, look at anybody, anywhere, right? Without having to, again, looking in the past, having to travel, write a letter, takes time, right? And so integrative. What does it mean to integrate?
Like a lot of the things that everybody has work well together. So all the gas pumps everywhere, all the gas works with every car.
Okay, so our ability to,
It's can pay for stuff.
right. So our ability to function in society has become so easy, right? That is in one prominent and much repeated assessment, flat. Why is flat in quotes? Does he, a professor of geography, believe the world to be flat? What do those quotes suggest? Figuratively. So, what do those air quotes, like, what mood do you get from air quotes? A little bit. It's a little snarky. And I am careful to identify things as being sarcasm. and I am careful to label things as being like snarky, because I feel like if we don't have a full understanding of a perspective, sarcasm is where we go. Plus, I mean, I'm 99% sarcasm, so I identify it. But this idea, you can feel his, like the anger from him, right? Because of all these things, the world is flat. Why did people many years ago believe the world to be flat?
Because they couldn't see, like,
Lack of knowledge,
and they were short. So they
lack of technology. All they could see was the horizon. So to them, the horizon, that end was 2D, right? Like that's where the end of it was. So that's what he's saying, is that numerous books and articles published in recent years. Now notice, if you get lost in all of this, right, you take out what's in between these commas each time you read. Numerous books and articles published in recent years argue that the human world today is so mobile, so interconnected, and so integrative that it is, again, this in parentheses goes over here, that it is flat. So if you ever get lost in reading, because there are so many phrases between commas, read them and figure out where those phrases are going, and you could just take them out. Does that make sense? Because then the main points are after or those commas. Ancient and durable obstacles are no more. Why are ancient and durable, meaning like they're around, why are they obstacles no more?
we can, like, fly over them or text through them.
Yeah, I mean, we can go over, around, and under. Yeah, I mean, because if you think like westward expansion, when they got to a mountain range, they had to figure out, how do we get over it? How do we get around it? How long is it? If we're going to go around it, how far does it go for us to go around, right? How long is it going to take for us to go over? Those obstacles are no more. Interaction is global. We understand that. Free trade rules the globe. We underspread. Those are all good things, right? Those are all good things we think from society. And the flow of ideas and money and jobs is so pervasive. Now, if you don't know what pervasive is in context, when you're reading that, you can write that geography, in the perspective of more than one observer, is history. So these quote-unquote flat earthers believe what about geography? Yeah, geography isn't needed. So notice, now I'm starting to see this trend, right? The people that believe that the earth is so like interconnected don't believe that geography is needed. And geography is it's a play on words. Geography is history, right? Like, I mean, it truly is. The notion that place continues to play a key role in shaping humanity's still variegated mosaic, meaning that humanity around the globe is so different, so varied, so pieced together, right, is seen as obsolete, even offensive, and determined that wherever you are or an individual place has any impact on who you are and what you believe, they believe, flat earthers, quote unquote, believe that's not true because they don't believe geography is important. Choice, not constraint, the mantra of the new flat world proponents. We know what choice means. What does constraint mean? The idea to constrain.
To not give somebody options.
Yeah, back, right? So it is your choice to discover the world. I would be writing down even if I don't have them up here because this is going to be important. Choice, not constraint, is the mantra of the new flat world proponents. Join the forces of flattening and you will enjoy the benefits. If you believe that we're so interconnected that we don't really need to study geography because we have everything at our fingertips, then you're good. Don't, and you will fall off the edge. Kind of a play on the idea of flat earth. The option is yours. This idea of an option of what? To choose to understand that this is how the world works or not. His question is, but is it? Is it really our choice? From the vantage point of a high floor room in the Shanghai Hyatt, the Mumbai Oberoi, or the Dubai Hilton, or from a business class window seat on Singapore Airlines, the world seems flat indeed. What are all those things? What do all those things have in common?
Very much.
Yeah. And who has access to those things?
Politicians and celebrities.
Like the rich. Millions of world flatteners move every day from hotel lobby to airport limo to first class lounge. Again, that's all having to do with money. Laptop in hand, uploading, sourcing, offshoring. Those are all work. As they travel, adjusting the air conditioning as they go. So all of that is privilege. They are changing the world. These modern nomads. What are nomads?
People that move around.
That like don't have like a home base, like a home, right? So these modern nomads are up there. They are changing the world, these modern nomads, and they are, and what would we label that in an argument? What would you label that in his argument? Which is what? What is he giving them? It's not a claim. It's the other side's claim. It's what? No.
Evidence? Yeah.
In an argument, does he believe that these modern nomads are good? From the tone of what you're reading so far, does he believe that?
Yes.
So it's his side of the argument.
Is that his purpose? To convince us?
Y'all
that-
stop talking and listen. You believe that everything that he has said from now, from flat to geography is history, to these flat earthers, you believe that what he thinks, that they think geography is not good. Do you think that he thinks they're right?
No.
No.
He's a geographer.
So then, do these modern nomads believe they are changing the world?
They believe they are.
Listen to what I'm asking you. Do the modern nomads believe they are changing the world? Y'all have to think. Y'all, we're at the stage where we're 12 weeks in, and if it takes this much for you to answer a question of something that I just read to you, I'm concerned. Do these modern nomads that he's talked about through this first half of the second body paragraph feel like they are changing the world?
Yes.
Yes. So, when he says they are changing the world, they are, in many ways, improving it. What is that in an argument if he is arguing the other side? It's a concession. At this point in the year, y'all should be understanding that. They are changing the world, these modern nomads, and they are, in many ways, improving it, depending, of course, on one's definition of progress. This is what we say is a qualifier. But are they invariably agents of access and integration? Somebody look up what invariably means.
It is the case or in every occasion, always.
But are they always agents of access? What is it? What would be an agent of access? What does that mean?
Somebody who is a philanthropist and giving people
Somebody
water, giving money.
Yeah, somebody allowing those things to happen. Agents of access and integration, like their job is to help more people do more things around the world easily. Or are they Are they lowering the barriers to participation? That would be being agents of access and integration. Are they lowering the barriers to participation, or are they raising the stakes against it? What does it mean, stakes?
Like the bad stuff.
Yeah, the price, like the risk, the bad stuff, right? Are they raising the stakes against it? Are they making it harder?
Yes.
Have their influence and impact overpowered the imperative of place, the value of place? Imperative, necessity. Have their influence and impact overpowered the value of place, so that their very mobility symbolizes a confirmed irrelevance of location. Irrelevance means not needed. Because they are able to travel and do all these things, where you are does not matter. So that's the question that he's asking. Have their influence and impact overpowered the imperatives of place? His answer is not yet. So this is where I would say the shift would be. Not yet, meaning that it's coming. The earth, physically as well as culturally, is still very rough terrain. What does he mean?
Well,
Culturally and physically.
physically it's rough. I mean, culturally there's a lot of differences and people still believe different things and still kill each other over it.
Physically as well as culturally, still the terrain, or earth is still, physically as well as culturally, still very rough terrain. What does that mean as a geographer? What is he trying to prove to you?
Geography still matters.
That what?
Geography still matters.
I mean, like, there's still, like, things to learn. And in crucial ways, its regional compartments continue to trap billions in circumstances that spell disadvantage. When you think about a map, and you're looking up above, the compartments could be a continent. It could be the countries within a continent. It could be the states within a continent. It could be the counties. However, the compartments are how the things are drawn. That's what geography does, right? So this is like thinking about a map. You're thinking about like regions, countries, states. So they continue to trap billions in circumstances that spell disadvantage. So does place matter to who you are? Yes. The power of place and the fate of people are linked by many strands ranging from physical area and natural environment to durable culture and tradition, local tradition. That right there, he's arguing, is the value of geography. Learning about physical areas, learning about natural environment, learning about culture, learning about traditions. This book, so now here comes his central argument. This book, therefore, views a world in which progress towards convergence, he would say that is good, is countered by stagnation. Stagnation means to like be still, not change. Therefore, this book views a world in which progress towards convergence is countered by stagnation, even setbacks. So if we do not study the changing world, then we cannot eventually become more united. Okay? All right, next sentence here. So starting here to here. Circle the words, So from here to this next sentence, circle the words in that sentence that you don't know, that you can't clearly define. What words did we circle?
Constituency.
Constituencies. What is it? Affluent.
And the one, W.
Walling.
Yeah.
What else?
Exacerbates.
Exacerbates. Periphery. Look at just that one sentence. If you don't know what those words mean, you miss his whole message, right? Various constituencies, meaning like the people, the groups, of the comparatively prosperous global core. What is the core of something? It's the center.
Like the central politics.
Yep.
Celebrities.
Well, those are all, that's where the money is. That does not look like money. So the core is where the money is, right?
And they're trying to
The global core, prosperous global core, are walling off. What does it mean to wall something off?
restrict access.
Okay. From their affluent, what does affluent
They're
mean?
well-to-do people.
Yeah, money.
They're up to-
Realms from the intrusion by poor globals, hardening a division between the core, periphery. What's your peripheral vision? So if this is the core, the outside is the periphery. What has more, the periphery or the core?
Core.
Like money.
Yeah.
How many more people? Where are the numbers of people? In the peripheral. So if those that have money are just the few, and they continue to build these walls that don't allow access to everybody else,
Because they like money.
the difference, this gap,
Exacerbate.
is going to become more and more. Exacerbates means to make worse.
Or other context.
And periphery, that exacerbates contrasts and stokes conflict. What does it mean to stoke a fire?
You blow air on it, make it bigger.
Okay? So the more this gap of the have and have-nots and the rich and the poor gets bigger and bigger and bigger, the more conflicts we have. When we are not studying all these places that the rich get to go and understanding the conflict and or understanding their culture and their traditions, we are creating a more separate world. Okay. So, the near global diffusion means to diffuse, to spread out. The near global diffusion or various forms of English as a first or second language is promoting a cultural convergence. Anybody traveled outside of the country? When you travel outside of the country, most people that you come in contact with speak what?
Well, it depends. Where are we going?
Most people around the world in most countries can speak a version or at least have a conversation in English.
It's a lingua franca.
Do what?
It's a lingua franca, so it's a common language.
Yes, common language. Now, we are the only country that believes and studies really prominently one language. When you travel outside of the country, most places you go to speak 2, 3, 4 languages, right? When you go to Argentina, right? Where, like, how many languages do most people speak there? Like, what do they speak?
Spanish.
Spanish.
Since there's so many Italian descendants, people can speak Italian.
Okay, Italian, some forms of English, right? Like, can understand and interpret a little bit. So, when he says the near global diffusion of various forms of English as a first or second language is promoting a cultural convergence, okay, so now we're all being able to at least talk to each other, but the radicalization of religions has the opposite effect. So when we're getting all these different groups of religion that are versions of other religions, now we're separating even more. And because we are all speaking the same language does not mean that we understand each other culturally or religiously. All right. The rest of your job tonight, notice that we only got not even halfway through body paragraph number 3. Your job tonight is to go in and circle the words that you don't know, define them, and read and annotate the rest of this for tomorrow. Good? Bring this with you tomorrow. I would say this would probably take you about 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes tonight.